March 15th, 2016. Please rise for a moment of prayer and silent reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Start with Adam.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll.
President Estefano.
Present.
Donahue.
Present.
Friedman.
Here.
Garriga.
Present.
Haddock.
Here.
Keith.
Here.
Mia.
Present.
Moore.
Present.
O'Hara.
Here.
Rector.
Here.
Escalera. Here. Quorum present.
Motions to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the February 16th meeting and place them on file. Motions by Priscilla and Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motions to dispense with the reading of the City Treasurer's report as of February 29th, 2016, and place them on file. Can I have a motion, please? Henry? And Warren? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Committee reports. Copies are on the Alderman's desk. May I have a motion and a second to place the committee reports on file? Mike? Henry? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. List of bills. May I have a motion and a second to pay the bills? Mike? Priscilla? Roll call vote.
I have a question.
Sorry.
I see some new names I'm not familiar with. Cheryl Kazluga, U.S. Bank Equipment Finance Corporation, Kathleen Rowell, Devana Batteries Plus, and American Printing Converters, Inc. Cheryl, that treasurer, isn't she?
Yeah, Kathleen Rowell was in the treasurer's office. She's been working some hours the past
She's a newly
few
retired.
weeks.
Newly retired.
She's been newly retired.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's Cheryl Kazluga?
She's the assessor. She's the assessor.
She's the assessor. What are we paying her an extra $110 for?
It's reimbursement for a workshop.
Good. And the others?
The batteries, which batteries were?
Are there more than one? I
Well,
only
there
see Devana Batteries Plus.
Parking ticket bureau for the machines.
Okay. And U.S. Bank Equipment Finance?
That is copiers for the clerk's office and code enforcement office.
Are those new?
Fairly new. Code enforcement probably the latter part of last year. Clerk's office new.
But we never had, they were never a vendor under previous bills, yeah? All right, I don't recognize them. American Printing Converters, Inc.
That is, and that's parking ticket bureau. I think they have a new machine, possibly. City of Hudson Casio IT 3000 tickets. Oh, so that must be the tickets, because there's rolls of tickets.
Ticket rolls. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call vote.
Donahue?
Aye.
Friedman?
Aye.
Kariga?
Aye.
Haddad?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Mia?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
O'Hara?
Aye.
Rector?
Aye.
And Scalera.
Aye.
Carried.
Communications, invitation from Philip Abitalo with the Columbia County Safety Tree Committee inviting council members to a special annual ceremony to memorialize victims of drunk driving. Second communication is a copy of the communication submitted to Hudson Development Corporation by SBK Social Justice Center regarding the lack of diversity on the board. Is there any discussion on that one? Does anybody have any discussion on that one? Number 3, resignation received from Conservation Advisory Council member Lauren LaFleur. Jonathan Leonard, would you like to make a comment regarding this?
Yes, we've lost Lauren LaFleur, who's moving away, and it's a loss to us because she has a master's degree in environmental policy and a lot of energy. The CAC by law can have up to 9 members, and right now we have 6. So really, I'm just asking you all to keep in mind that we have openings. If you know anybody who has a background in any of the kinds of things we're doing, planning, natural history, environmental studies, anything like that, and an interest, have them talk to me. We also actually, it isn't just that we want to add some knowledgeable members to the council, but there are going to be opportunities for volunteers who don't necessarily join the council to work with us on projects coming up. So high school students, anybody who's interested.
Do they have to be residents of Hudson?
I believe it's within a 10-mile
Okay.
10-mile radius of Hudson, is that right?
15.
15 miles, okay. Yeah. Thanks.
May I have a motion and a second to receive these communications and place them on file? Rick? Mike? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Nay. Is it nay? Do you say nay? Singularly vocalizing myself as a negative. That
Resolutions? Oh,
There's an opposition.
Okay. Roll call vote.
President Estefano.
Aye.
Alderman Donahue. Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
no.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
And Scalera. Aye. Motion is approved.
Resolution number 1, appointing commissioners of deeds. Roll call vote.
President Estefano.
Aye.
Alderman Donahue.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
No.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
Scalera. Aye. Carried.
Resolution number 2, designating the Bank of Greene County as the official depository of the city of Hudson. Roll call vote.
President Estefano.
Aye.
Alderman Donahue.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
And Scalera. Aye. Carried.
Resolution number 3, authorizing the city treasurer to commence in rent tax foreclosure proceedings against certain property. May I have an introduction and a second, please? Mike? Abdus? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
President Estefano.
Aye.
Alderman Donahue.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
O'Hara,
Aye.
Rector, Scalera. Carried.
Resolution number 4, authorizing transfers within the Public Works Department accounts for the year 2016. May I have an introduction and a second? Bob, Abdus. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
President DeStefano.
Aye.
Alderman Donahue.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
And Scalera. Carried.
Resolution number 5, stating the desire to seek state funds for the replacement of the Ferry Street Bridge in the city. May I have an introduction and a second? Tiffany? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
President DeStefano. Alderman Donahue.
Aye.
Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga.
Aye.
Haddad.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
And Scalera. Carried.
Okay. Okay. On our desks is a resolution for the reclassification in the zoning, and we're going to go through the forms first before we vote on the resolution.
Just to clarify, the resolution, it's just a draft resolution for the seeker review, the environmental review. This is not a resolution to adopt the law. But last week at the special meeting, a proposed local law was put on your desks, and under New York law, as early as possible in the process when an action is proposed, the body that's doing it or is responsible for it is supposed to go through their environmental review of it, classify it as what type of action it is, and do the environmental review, because you can't go, it's a prerequisite to moving forward. But in no way is this adopting the law. I want to be very clear about that. We sent the draft law to the county planning, but they do require this form before they can even act on it and review. So there are 3 parts. There's a part 1 which is informational, and I've drafted, I filled in things in draft. It's up to you to determine whether I'll read what I've written down. Most of this is very factual in nature, because since it's the proposed action is adopting a local law, you don't have to you don't have to fill out most of this form. It also applies for actual projects or construction stuff, which require much more detailed information. So although there's a lot of paper, there's not much information to go through. And then the second part, I'm sure you've done before, is to go through various potential impacts that this action might have. And again, because it's a local law, it's likely to be found that they're quite minimal. But actually, maybe we're about to point out a couple of things that prerequisites to this. One was this body needs to, by motion, declare itself lead agency as the only entity that has approval powers. There really isn't anybody else to do it. So that would actually be the very first thing to do. And then after designating yourselves the lead agency, you would then go ahead and classify it. And I can tell you what it warrants a Class 1 designation because of the proximity to the historic resources of the city. So, is there a question?
John?
Was there an introduction?
No, not yet.
Then I'll wait.
Okay.
So, initially, it would take a motion for this body to declare itself the lead agency for the seeker review, which is maybe, I mean, you're the only body who's introduced it, who's got the thing, so that would be, we'd only do it, yes.
So moved. I move that we declare that we are the lead agency in this particular action.
Second? So,
I have a question then.
okay.
What's a hotel? How are we defining a hotel? How do we know what its impact is if we don't know what it is?
The law is just adding the title to the,
I understand that you're adding a new use, but what is the definition of that use? So B&B is defined under the building and fire safety code. Single-family residence is defined, multi-dwelling is defined. A lot of different things are defined, but I'm not aware that a hotel is defined in the city code or in the charter. And my understanding is that the general city law, or maybe it's the second-class city law, doesn't provide for hotels in small cities under 1 million. Only, I think it's inns and dormitories. Dormitories. Yes, I know, it's weird. So I'm curious, I don't know what the standard is, what it is that we're judging. Is it a 10-room building? Is it a room with 100 rooms? Are we spot zoning? So is it this particular 56-room project, or what is it that we're discussing?
It seems like it's fairly well established meaning, but the other thing is, as far as any particular application, it's a conditional use, so it does have to go through the full review.
So anything is a hotel if it says it's a hotel?
I think it's permissible to use common historical established.
Probably it is, maybe, I don't know. But the rest of the code defines terms that aren't, like B&B is defined. Single-family home is defined, MDU is defined. Multi-family home row house is defined, detached house is defined, but hotel's not defined. I'm wondering if we don't need to have some.
Well, there are hotels in the city.
Absolutely,
And they've
there's
got
one that's
permits,
got
so-
12 rooms, and there's one that's got 10 rooms, and now we're proposing to build one that has 55 or 54, 56, some number, which is a big jump. And I wonder if it's not a different thing. I don't know.
How many, St. Charles is fairly good size.
I don't know how many rooms it is.
Well, I mean, the size is why there's typically, there's a review and a special
But
permit.
then how are we supposed to do a secret review if we don't know the size?
Because the secret review is not specific to a project. And any project that comes under it as a special permit, a conditional use, has to go through its own secret review, a much more extensive one, because that gets into all of the specifics and characteristics of that particular project, and that if it is found to have projects, then it has to go through an environmental impact study, and they would be mitigated to the point where they have to come into compliance with the environmental law. That nothing can be built without going through a much more extensive review, both an environmental review, planning board, perhaps zoning board, that evaluates that specific project on its particular characteristics and possible
So
impact.
then what are we evaluating today?
There's not,
How do we know how to answer these questions?
well, when you see them, some of them, because most of them have to do with, remember, this is the same form that's used for anything that comes, which means, and one of the things included is passing laws, but most of the time, the things that it's applied to are actual projects, things that are actually being built, developments, of some kind. So an awful lot of what's asked is in relation to, isn't applicable in this case.
So the questions that are asked but not answered here are not applicable?
Well, in fact, it's specifically when you start reading part 1, there's in the EAF, full environmental assessment form part 1. Actually, before we just, I know there was a motion to lead agency. Is that still pending, or was that's where we are?
Well, my question is, how do we know if we can take on the lead agency, or if we're the right people to, if we don't know what it is we're talking about?
Because you're talking about a local law, and only this body passes a local law, so only you can be the lead agency at this stage. We're not addressing a project. If a project for something is applied for under the zoning code, then most likely, I'm guessing, the planning board would be the lead agency. But the action before the board is amending your code and passing a local law. As the Common Council, a legislative body, you're the only body that can do that. And there isn't anybody else who can be a lead agency, because there isn't any other agency involved at this point. So that's why you would be the lead agency for this action. This is a legislative proposal, not a construction proposal. And so it's, at this stage, it's in your hands.
If it's a legislative proposal, then the language in which I'm going to vote on, I think we should have definitions. And I think it shouldn't be too hard to define a hotel. We could easily adopt it from a number of municipalities that have hotels in their language or whatever charters they adhere to. We could just add it to our glossary of definitions, and if one day the city does in fact have a hotel, don't you think we should have it defined?
Well, you do have a whole bunch of hotels. I don't know.
I'm sorry, let me correct myself. If we have a new hotel that is actually billed as, I think we have one.
Well, so is hotel used in the code
Well,
already?
it's used because they're already permitted in the CC district. Yeah, section 325.14, central commercial CC district, permitted uses, hotels.
So
They're permitted, they don't need.
So is there a definition?
I don't know if there is, but there is obviously, there's been some established use because it is in there and there are a bunch of hotels in it.
Okay, so then I come back to my other question. The questions that aren't answered in here don't need to be answered?
Right, and I'll tell you, it's expressly stated in the first part. When you get to the second page, I'm sure if we get through it, it says, about halfway down the second page, C, planning and zoning, C1, planning, it says, will administrative or legislative adoption or amendment of a plan, local law, ordinance, rule, or regulation be the only approvals to allow this action to proceed. That is the only thing that's happening here, is a local law amending a local, so, and what it says is, if yes, complete section 6C, and then F and G, and you skip over the entire middle of this.
But F and G aren't.
F and G are to add other information that you think is necessary, and G is the signature. And I have put in some other information that seems relevant. There's a map that identifies it as just the one portion. There's 3 pages from the LWRP, for 3 pages worth of context, but one within the southern waterfront area specifically referring to the placement of hotels there, just as an example of, and then there's the zoning code itself. So there are a few pieces of information, or there's section 13, which is the RSC code. So,
And this is for all 3?
no, it is not for all 3. It's only proposed local law was only to make it a conditional use in that one portion on the southern part of the RSC. I have it on the map if you want to look at it. You know the one we're talking about. This is not changing the proposed local law. It's simply a step along the way that must be taken is to go through the environmental review.
And this isn't spot zoning
because it's changing a zone. It's not changing a lot. And spot zoning is typically reserved to a situation where a specific parcel is changed and that is not contiguous to other things that are remotely similar, that you're really taking a complete, like really an island, completely different from what surrounds it. And you're picking out a parcel that's and really changing it so it's significantly different from what is around it. But where this is a fairly sizable area, it's contiguous to a lot of formerly commercial buildings. Some still are, industrial type buildings. This I feel very confident saying would not constitute spot zoning.
Well, the word hotel is included in the LWRP specifically.
In that area.
Yeah.
So, and that comes up, that issue really comes up toward the end of the EAF Part 2. So, if we could...
So this is, in effect, making effective the language in the LWRP?
No, it's not. It's just, as a reference, there are questions of whether this is inconsistent with adopted plans. What is not inconsistent with any adopted plans? I went through...
Is it consistent with the adopted plan?
The comprehensive plan is not really very detailed.
What does the LWRP say about hotels in this zone?
It refers to them as it's talking about rezoning that area to include, it seems to have thought, the Reds seem to have thought the RSC was going to have hotels because it talks about rezoning this in such a way, making it RSC which has hotels in it. So, along with a number of other things. So it refers to rezoning this in a way that includes hotels.
So, Councilor, yes or no? I mean, is it consistent with the language of the LWRP?
Yes.
I think it's consistent with the LWRP.
I think it is consistent with the LWRP.
Yes.
Just wanted to be clear.
And it is not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan really doesn't shed much light on this.
So that the city's strategic plan for this area all along has been to permit hotels within the area?
Well, within the LWRP, that seems to be the case.
Joe,
It says that in the LWRP,
right
and it
here.
doesn't say not to do it in the strategic plan, so is it consistent or not?
The question is it inconsistent?
Well, I'm asking the converse of that question.
I think, to the extent there's anything that lays out planning projections, it's consistent with that.
That
would
was
be
the city's
LWRP.
plan to zone it this way since at least 2011, when the LWRP was met.
That seems to be the case.
That seems to be the case. Thank you.
So, we're still in the middle of declaring lead agency.
Well, we had an introduction and a second.
we have a second?
Yes. We did, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The second thing would be a motion to declare this a Class 1, Type 1 action, and under the regulation, New York State regulations, sets out things that are Type 1s and Type 2s. And Type 1, one is any an unlisted action, means something wasn't otherwise categorized, occurring wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any historic building, structure, facility, site, or district. The DEC website has a mapping function, so when you put in the location of a site, and it will actually tell you whether you are in proximity to certain things. And when as you see in the, near the end of the end of the part 1 that I gave you, there is a little map, the EAF mapper summary report. You see that I outlined the proposed zone, and it told me that, and you'll see this on page 12, and on page 13, does the project site contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site, or district? Check yes. So according to DEC records, this meets that, which makes it a type 1. So that's why on the facts I think that's the correct thing. We should move to that. So we need a motion to declare it type 1.
Can I have a motion, please?
I move we declare this action a type 1 action under the seeker rules.
Right. Second? Rick?
Okay, so,
All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Now, if you go through the EAF part 1, this is the factual representations in the information. And as I said, because it's a local law, most of this is very straightforward. There are a couple parts that I will make a point of reading, but the name of action or project is just descriptive. Local law to amend the Hudson zoning code to allow hotel as a conditional use in part of the existing RSC district and redesignate such portion as RSC2. Just a description of the action. And also, and let me emphasize again, in no way does this change the local law at all. It's just referring to it. Project location, City of Hudson, a brief description. I write this as a draft. If you feel that something needs to be amended, this is your job. But I want to give you a starting point, and it may be you may decide it's adequate and accurate. Description: the proposed local law would redesignate the portion of the current RSC zoning district located in the southwesterly part of the city and approximately bounded by South Front Street to the west, Cross Street to the north, Tanner's Lane to the east, and the I-1 district to the south as the residential special commercial 2 RSC2 district, and would add hotel as a conditionally permitted use in such southern waterfront area RSC2 district, in addition to the uses currently set out in the RSC district. This action is consistent with the City of Hudson's planning and zoning outlook in addressing 3 waterfront areas: the core riverfront area, the northern waterfront area, and the southern waterfront area. The LWRP specifically contemplates the placement of hotels in the southern waterfront area, the location affected by this action, but such use is not currently permitted there. This area's inclusion of or proximity to such sites as the Amtrak station and Riverfront Park provides further support for taking this action. This action would bring the applicable zoning of the subject area into greater alignment with the articulated planning and zoning vision of the City of Hudson. That was what I came to after reading these documents. Again, it's a draft for you. If you feel it's something there is not right or should be altered, it's your prerogative to do that as a body. If not, I can move on. The next is just City of Hudson's contact information. Second page, government approvals, funding, sponsorship, government entity, the City Council, yes. Identify the agency and approvals, City Common Council, enactment of local law. That's the only mandated action that has to be taken. There are other advisory steps, but this is the one approval that must be given. Down below that, coastal resources. These were auto-filled by DEC website when I put in the location. Is the project site within a coastal area or a waterfront area? Yes. Is the project site located in a community with improved LWRP? No. Is the project site within a coastal erosion hazard area? No.
Excuse me, when Alderman O'Hara made the motion to have this body as a lead-on agency for this, is that why it falls under A, from the government entity, rather than A and C?
I'm not sure where you're looking.
So you just read under government approval, funding, or sponsorship. And you just read over there.
Oh, right. Yes.
So it's checked off, but it was already because of the motion that was made.
No. This is just determining what government entities are required to act for this action to move forward. The action being the enactment of local law, and that the city council is checked because the city council has to enact the law for it to move forward.
Yeah, and then C, it says city council, town, village, zoning board of appeals.
That's when the city council sits as the adjudicating agency, which we don't.
So then down on C1, under C planning and zoning, it says, will administrative or legislative adoption or amendment of a plan, local law, ordinance, rule, or regulation be the only approvals which must be granted to enable the proposed action to proceed. That is true. There are a couple bodies who get input, but you are not obligated. As a legislative body of the city, you have the sole power to enact the law. It is the only thing that is required to happen must be granted as your approval as a body. And so the answer is yes, and then if yes, complete sections C, F, and G. So we continue with C. Do any municipally adopted city, town, village, or county comprehensive land use plans include the site where the proposed action would be located? Yes, there is a comprehensive plan for the entirety of the city.
Ken, can I ask you a question? Isn't the southwestern corner of this new district, it's not within 500 yards of the municipal border? Isn't that the standard for invoking the county planning power to approve or not approve?
They don't have power to approve, they have power to give an opinion, which you can override. They cannot, and that's why we are sending it to the county.
Okay, I think that answers it. Thank you.
If yes, does the comprehensive plan include specific recommendations for the site where the proposed action would be located? I spent some time going through it. The comp plan is 2002. It's very general in regard to this, and I did not find anything that really seemed to generate specific recommendations.
Doesn't the LWRP?
Well, this is asking about the comprehensive.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not. It's asking about comprehensive plans.
No, it says,
or it uses a parenthetical less. I mean, I don't think it's using comprehensive plan as a term of art here. I mean, it's not.
It usually is.
It's not capitalized. It's not a defined term. And it invokes the possibility of more than one with a parenthetical less.
I think perhaps you could have overlying comprehensive plans in some of these different jurisdictions.
But that's about, well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan is usually a term meaning that comprehensive plan, as far as I understand
But
it.
the LWRP is a land use plan.
But it's not the comprehensive plan.
Well, it's comprehensive for governance. If it's enacted by the Department of State, isn't it controlling?
But it's not. The LWRP isn't.
Well, no, but the zoning changes were enacted, and this one, for one reason or another, didn't get done. I mean, that's why we're really here today, talking about this. The LWRP, I mean, specifically says that hotels will be located in this area. I don't know why we're being coy.
Well, it uses the term comprehensive plan, and my view is that when somebody's asking about the comprehensive plan, it is referring to the comprehensive plan and not other things. If you prefer,
But it doesn't say comprehensive plan, it says comprehensive land use plan. And it specifically contemplates plural, more than one.
well, as I said, I think you could possibly have some of these, you might have a county plan, the city plan.
Well, could the city and the county plan diverge as to specific property within the city?
Well, there's no such thing as a county comprehensive plan.
So then there can't be a county comprehensive land use plan.
Right.
It can't possibly exist, according to my colleagues. So then how to make sense of the parenthetical S except to include the LWRP? I mean, it was passed by this body.
Well, it's conceivable that you could be doing something that involves two towns. In fact, there have been projects recently, major projects that were on parcels that were partly in one town, partly in another town, and they were subject to two completely different comprehension.
Well, but we have an LWRP, and I'm curious why you're resisting. It was debated by this body in the city for close to a generation. It was the major issue before this body for a number of years before I joined it, and right before I joined it. It passed and was enacted, and a series of zoning changes resulted after the fact. A lot of them that were mandated by the LWRP. This is one of those zoning changes that for one reason or another was not enacted by the legislature after the LWRP was passed, and thus we find ourselves here trying to solve that problem. And I mean, to my mind, it's a comprehensive land use plan because it is fairly comprehensive and it plans for the use of land. And since the county can't possibly have one,
Well, I think I looked at that differently. I think maybe the case, you could have more than one in a project that spans a municipal.
well, let me
board.
ask you this, Counselor. I mean, if we have authority that says what we're doing is right, wouldn't that make what we're doing here now stronger rather than weaker? More likely
I'm not
to
presenting
withstand the
it to
challenge?
make it stronger or weaker. When I read comprehensive plan, and that's a term that's,
It doesn't say comprehensive plan, it says comprehensive land use plan.
well, look,
I
you are
think
the
we're
body.
talking about definition here of what does comprehensive mean. And the LWRP is quite specifically bounded by the area included in the waterfront.
Which is about 80% of the city,
No argument there, but it's not
and
the
includes this
entire,
area.
no argument there. But
So it's comprehensive
but-
within its area.
Right, but it depends on whether we think of comprehensive as meaning the entire city rather than comprehensive in some other sense of the word.
I think most comprehensive plans in the city context are not comprehensive for an entire city. I mean, cities by their nature tend to be rather diverse.
There might be a
Geography is bounded by a border. And so if we define comprehensive,
So is the waterfront area that's defined in the LWRP. And again, it covers almost the entire city. Up to the 700 block of Warren Street, I believe. I mean, it's about just under a mile from the waterfront to the eastern edge of the LWRP zone. And certainly the area that we're talking about is covered by the LWRP, and it is comprehensive as to that zone, as to that district. And it was drafted and adopted in its final form after the city's comprehensive plan by, I think, 10 years. And therefore, to me, it underscores what we're trying to accomplish here. I don't know why we would say it isn't. It doesn't apply. It ratifies what we're doing. It adds strength to what we're doing. Why are we being so coy? Is there a reason?
I don't think they're being coy. Anyone's being coy. I read it.
You're taking words out of the language.
My view of it was that it was referring to the comprehensive plan. But as
It doesn't say that.
I drafted it for your review. You are the body who's adopting this. This is going out in your name. If you prefer to consider that as including things, that's perfect.
I'd say look at the question under C2A. If yes, which it is, does the comprehensive plan include specific recommendations for the site where the proposed action would be located? It's fairly clear. It's not the comprehensive plan, it's a comprehensive land use plan. There can be more than one. There can't be a county one. And this is a city without either a village, and we can't have a town.
I said there may just be one in this case, but there have been recent projects in the county that span 2 municipalities.
But
that was my view.
It's
up to you to decide. And the other thing is, this is a step to answering a question that comes in part 2. So in part 2, there are a couple of questions that bear back to this. One is consistency with community plans. And that just, the question says, the statement is, whether the statement is true or false, the proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. That does not use the word comprehensive plan. That is more general, referring to plans. So it seems either way, when you get to the question, which is the one that actually matters in making the determination, you're going to be able to include either of these. But, as I said, I wrote it as a draft. That was the way I read it. But you're the ones whose name goes on it, and so, as a body, you want to answer that the way you think is correct.
Well, I think it's a yes. I look at this and I think the plain language is a yes.
Leave it to you guys to decide.
I don't think it matters in this context. If it makes you happy, John, then I'll support defining comprehensive as including something like the LWRP. And if we call it comprehensive in this context, it will be. And so the answer to that question changes from no to yes. Right? Got that?
I would support that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, 2 more questions. Is the site of the proposed action within a local or regional special planning district, Greenway Brownfield Opportunity Area, designated state or federal heritage area, water management plan? That was a no. Is it located within an adopted municipal open space plan or farmland protection plan? And that's also no. C3, the next page, is the site of the proposed action located in a municipality with an adopted zoning or law or ordinance? Yes. If yes, what is the zoning classification? It's currently the RSC. Is the use permitted or allowed by a special or conditional use permit? That is not applicable because that would apply to an actual project. Is a zoning change requested as part of the proposed action? Yes. If yes, what is the proposed new zoning? And it is adding hotel as a conditional use and part of the existing RSC zone and designating it RSC2. Existing community services in what school district? Hudson City School District. What police or other protection forces? Hudson Police Department, Columbia County Sheriff, New York State Police. Which fire protection, emergency medical services serve the site? City of Hudson Department of Fire, Greenport Rescue. What parks serve the project site? Put in Hudson Riverfront Park as being close proximity. If you feel anything else should be added, it's kind of a subjective question, I think. That's the end of C. And so then it goes, because it's a local law, it goes directly to F, which is on page 13. Additional information.
We're not voting on the local law.
You're not voting on the local law. Attach additional information, that's where I included the zoning map with that highlighted, 3 pages from the LWRP, 2 of them with the context, the second page, marked 31, on the southern waterfront area with the arrow pointing to where it refers to the hotels there. And I added, for reference, chapter 325, section 325.13, which is the current RSC, so it's apparent to anybody who wants to look at it what some uses are, which seem to be sufficient information for the purpose. So, if that's,
Does this go to the zoning board after tonight?
this doesn't, this gets filed, it's just a, if you determine, there are a couple steps to go through to make an evaluation, determination of the environmental impact, and it's just becomes part of the procedural requirements. If you were determined that it did have significant adverse environmental impacts, then there's a whole other set of things that would need to be done. But you're going to determine that by going through part 2. So first, as a body, you should decide whether or not you think this is an accurate reflection of the facts as the questions were asked. And if it is, you can give your approval of the part 1 as the factual basis, then we have to apply that to go through part 2, which is the assessment of the impacts. But it's one step at a time. So having gone through the questions and the answers to find this to be an adequate and accurate representation. So that's for you. And if any of those, there were a couple questions we tried to resolve, and those are the only questions at issue here. So if any of the things we talked about leave somebody unhappy, we should address that. Otherwise, probably go ahead and accept this.
So I guess any other discussion on part 1?
Just a motion to accept part 1 and
Is there a motion to accept part 1 of the, Mike?
I move we accept the language in part 1 as filled in.
Okay.
I second it.
John?
So then part 2.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Part 2?
Part 2 has 18 major questions, and those each have to be initially addressed. If there are yeses to those questions, then there are more detailed questions. So again, most of these, you'll see, have to do with physical construction development projects, and most of them, except for the last couple, you'll probably find do not have relevance to a local law. So the first question, impact on land. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface. There is no construction involved, it's a local law. So that would be no. And when there's a no, you move to the next question. Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to unique or unusual landforms, cliffs, dunes, minerals, caves. This is part 2.
What are 10?
I'm just looking on.
Within the part 2, it goes pages within page 2 of 10, page 3 of 10, and so forth.
At the very back.
Right.
You're in part 1, I think.
Keep going.
Keep going back.
Keep going.
It's quite a ways.
Keep
Keep going through
There you go, right after that, okay. All right, so impact on geological features, again, there's no physical alteration of any kind in local law, so that would be no.
Should these be marked no?
Yeah, I'm marking one and I'll give it to the president
Thank
afterwards.
you.
She can sign on behalf of the board. Impacts on surface water, again, the local law is not having any physical impacts. Impact on groundwater, proposed action may result in new additional use of groundwater. The local law will not. Again, these projects that would ultimately could come to light would be reviewed and they would be held to standards and all of these same questions on their particular characteristics. And there could be effects of mitigation required at that stage if any projects come to light. Impact on flooding may result in development on land subject to flooding. There's not a flood area. Impacts on air. Proposed action may include state regulation air emission resources. Impacts on plants and animals. These are all project and construction related. Impact on agricultural resources. Agricultural resources there. Impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. This is, again, it's actually really directed toward, when you see this questions down below, the action may be visible, may obstruct, it's really, again, more directed toward the project. Impact on historical or archaeological resources. Proposed action may occur in or adjacent to historic or archaeological resources. That it's there's a little ambiguity about the way that's written, but I think the real crux of this come on page 10, which is the consistency with community plans and consistency with community character, because that is more.
Also, I would think that 10 would have to be yes, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's directly across the street from our building.
Saying 17 should be
Right,
yes.
so just to say that it's in, that zone is within the adjacent to historic or archaeological resource center is a yes. But then the sub-questions are no small impact may occur, then I think be appropriate in this particular case.
You don't really know. These are really poorly drafted questions. So both 9 and 10, I think you have to answer yes. Yes. But there's no way you'd be able to answer A through F. Well, F you can answer, G, who knows. And then in 10, A through C, E. There's no way to know. How are you going to know? It doesn't say what adjacent means.
It's not visible.
It doesn't say what adjacent means. Is adjacent mean immediately next to, or, around the corner from, or within a stone's throw, or, can you smell it when you put it there? I don't know. And the use of the word may basically brings everything within the ambit of possibilities, so. At least in 10, I don't see how you answer that.
Agreed.
Okay. Then go to the sub-questions. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on or has been nominated. And that was the thing where I believe it did.
Well, it's right across the street from the Robert Taylor House, which is the oldest house in the city of Hudson. So that, in fact, then it's adjacent to the historic district.
That was the thing. So that came up on the mapper. That was what made this a class 1, the type 1 in the first place. Is that it is, the mapper indicated it is, I mean, it doesn't say exactly, it just, does it contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site, or district? And it actually, what it plugged in is Hudson Historic District.
Right.
So,
Are you saying that this doesn't have to, or it's not going to the ZBA, even though with this decision, they're looking for a special conditional use?
they're looking for a use variance.
Yeah,
But this is,
and this has nothing to do.
it's not really not, they are trying to determine whether or not to give a use variance, which is based on the existing law, and that's their purview. They look at that and determine whether or not that should be granted. This is a question of changing the underlying law that is not applicable to what they're doing right now because they are under the existing law. So this doesn't really have anything to do with them. They have to evaluate the application in front of them under the current law, and that's where they are with that. If this, I mean, not even this, I mean, if the local law that we're talking about here were to get enacted, you know, in one of your later meetings, then someone who wanted to build a hotel within that zone would need a conditional use permit, which is, it's more a permitted thing. It would be, a use variance is subject to a very, very high standard under the law to get one. But that's what they're doing now. They're applying the current law and the use variance standards to an application. But this does not need to go to them. None of what's going on now really needs to go to them because they are dealing with the law as it currently stands. If the law is changed at some point down the road, and then they would have to apply the new law. But right now they've got a law, so this really doesn't have a direct impact on what they're doing. To go to the sub-questions, it says the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, and such. And that's where the mapper said, yes, it does occur. And so you have to determine if it's, you know, how great an impact do you think the local law could have in light of, the fact that it is in the vicinity of something, and what the local law would make possible, and what review would have to be performed in anything that came through it.
The local law would have to change so it can be possible.
I'm sorry?
And the local law would have to change so it can be possible.
So what, you mean so that,
Hotel.
well, there are 3 categories of use, based, just a little background, there's 3 categories of use. There are things that are permitted, that means you can just do them. You need to get perhaps building permits, but they require no zoning permission whatsoever. For example, a single-family house on a single-family lot, as long as you're meeting the setbacks, you do not need to go to a zoning board. You don't need to go to a planning board. You're allowed to build single-family homes on those lots. So you have to, as long as you comply with the size and such, you can do it. There are other things that are often a little, bigger things that are not permitted as of right. You can't just go and build it. You have to go before a board, and the board looks at standards in your code to make sure that it is suitable there, or that the particular characteristics of it are not out of line in that particular location. Very often, commercial activities are going to be conditional uses, or they call them special permit uses, which means there's sort of a presumption that that kind of thing belongs there, but there are standards in the code that may put limitations of size or intensity, or give more details about what's okay. And it may have to do with surroundings. It may have to do with a particular lot. That it may be perfect. So a lot of things are called conditional uses, which means, as I said, there's sort of a presumption that yes, it's appropriate to go there, and if you're doing something that's kind of in line with, it's in line with community standards, you can do it. Then the third category is things that are not allowed. They are prohibited. And under New York law, if something is not permitted, expressly permitted, you can't do it. So if it's not named, and it doesn't fit into any of the categories of things that are either permitted or special uses or conditional uses, you can't do them. And the only way to get permission to do them is to get a use variance. And the law is very, very strict about what is required in order to get a use variance. And among them is that you have to show, as the owner of the land, that you cannot make a viable use of that property for every single permitted use. You actually have to go through every single thing that you're allowed to do there and demonstrate why you can't make a return doing that. And the reason use variances came into being really is because it's unconstitutional to deprive someone of all use of their property. As long as you can get some use out of it, you can restrict it. But you can't restrict property so extensively that you can't use it in any economically viable way. And so this is a safety valve that if something's been legislated so you can't do anything on it, in order to avoid unconstitutional takings, there's this little safety valve that municipalities can say, look, if you can't do anything else here, and you didn't buy into this problem, but you just have it, and now you can't do anything with it, and you're going to have to leave it lying there useless and no return, then we have to let you do something with it. And that's the only case where they're really lawfully to be granted. So it's a very, very high standard. That's why most things that are considered acceptable to the community, if they're going to go somewhere, they really should be classified as special uses or conditional uses. That means they're not objectionable to the point of being excluded, but they do have to come before a board and be reviewed to make sure that the particular characteristics of it are suitable for where they are. And so that's what this would be doing, is saying, okay, the hotel can go in this district, you go before the board, make sure that what you're doing is suitable and appropriate, you can do it. As it stands right now, the code says you can't do it unless you get a use variance. So, anyway, so it's important to understand the distinctions in what this is doing, and also understanding the process that something goes through when it's named a conditional use. It's not just fine, knock yourself out, do what you want. It's go to the planning board, satisfy the standards, show you're compatible with the area, and then it can be perhaps approved. So, coming back to this question, each of these, in case we didn't really go through the beginning, but down to the questions coming up, it's also important to understand what the environmental review does. At the end of reviewing this, you have to ultimately make a determination whether or not the proposal will have any significant adverse environmental impacts, and that's a tough word to work with. But if you find it does, then there has to be a preparation, what's called an environmental impact statement, which is sometimes a very extensive study of what the thing under consideration would do, what alternatives there are, how it can be mitigated, but there are public hearings on it. It's a several-month process to evaluate what's being proposed and see if there are other ways to do it that would have less an impact. If you, after reading this, you decide that there may be impacts, but they're not significant, and it doesn't have to have no impact, but if you decide it's not going to have a significant one, then you can say, no, this doesn't have significant impacts, and that would be the end of that. So this is the thing that helps decide, really, well, it does decide whether or not the project can keep moving forward, or whether it has to be a next step, substantial study of all the things that could be done, could be mitigated, could be changed, what the effects are. So just so you understand what it is you're looking at here.
So we're currently on
10.
number 10.
So, according to the mapper, it does 10A is relevant, but you have to decide whether you think it's a small impact or whether it's moderate to large impact. And I mentioned a couple times that keep in mind the review that anything that could arise out of this would have to go through.
Well, I would say moderate because the other option is no to small.
Well, I would suggest the law itself means at most small, because any individual project will have its own individual secret review that will respect the square footage of the buildings, the impermeable surfaces, whatever physically the building does. What we're talking about here is a local law which has no physical impact on the space itself. It allows for somebody to put a building someplace in that area that we will call by a name hotel. But each of those projects will themselves have to answer the question much more specifically, is how will putting a building of this size on that particular spot affect these characteristics that we're adjacent to?
Well, that's true, but it still doesn't answer the question whether the impact is large or moderate or not at all.
Well, I think it does. At least that's what I meant to imply here, is that I would suggest it's a no or small impact may occur.
I understand, but one doesn't follow necessarily, that conclusion doesn't follow logically from your premise.
What conclusion would?
No conclusion would. You don't have enough facts. That's my point. You have to answer it, but you can't. I mean, and when I say you, I mean we. We have to answer it, but we can't, so we can guess. But that's the best. You can couch it in any language you want, but all we can do is guess.
Right. Well, in that case, I'll guess that it'll be no or small impact may occur.
Well, I mean, it is the local law that is being considered here.
Right. It's not a physical thing.
Well, you can move on. You have to answer these questions.
Yes, no.
So what do you want to do?
No. Is there really any difference between the two?
Yes.
There is.
Well, there must be, because there's choices.
And there's actually a very big difference.
I mean, if we say moderate to large impact, I mean, that will put us into a situation where we have to go out and, do a very detailed study of what that large might be.
Does a small impact require a detailed study?
No.
No.
Then fine, go to the middle ground.
local law that is reasonable.
So are we in agreement that it is no or small impact may occur?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed?
All right.
Proposed action may occur wholly or partially within a substantial contiguous area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites. I did not identify anything about archaeological sites, just the historic ones, so that would appear to be no.
Do we agree with no small impact may occur?
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
And then may occur within an archaeological site not included in the SHPO inventory. There's no reason to think that.
No, again.
Do we agree with no?
Yeah.
Again.
So then, other impacts?
Zero.
Alright. So then 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in the loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in the municipal space plan, open space plan. Would do so.
No.
Impact on critical environmental area, there's only one in Columbia County, it's not in Hudson. Proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
Impact on energy. Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
That's pretty vague.
How do we
That's
answer
the
that
answer.
one?
You guess. Guess the way you want.
Sort of.
Well, I would say the high-level question 14 would be a yes.
Yes.
It will almost certainly have a increase in the use of any form of energy, but then I think we can then check off the no or small impact column for the sub-questions.
I agree.
Because does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
Yes. Yes. And then I would say no or small impact.
Okay with that?
We agree?
Okay.
Covered on D and E. All right, it's 16, impact on human health.
No.
Consistency with community plans. These are the two that really seem to be most directly applicable to the local law and then the zoning. Proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. It's kind of double negative here. So, do you think this is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan?
No.
The consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. So that completes the part 2.
Okay.
And now we're very close, because part 3 follows pretty directly. Just can make a motion to approve, adopt the part 2.
Move we accept part 2 as we just discussed it, with all the check boxes as we discussed.
Mike, motion. Priscilla, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, so part 3, because you did not reach a moderate or large impact on anything, on page 2, the conclusion will be, because what you do, on page 1, for anything that says there was a moderate to large impact, you have to write an explanation. You did not find any that did that, so on page 2, on A, this project will result in no significant adverse impact on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared, and there will be negative declaration. Having found none of them to reach the moderate or large impact would tend to be the answer, unless you can determine that several of them together would still reach an overall significant impact. But typically, at this point, if you need any elaboration on what's meant by significant, I can talk some more, but if you think that this is, that it would not be a significant impact, we could go with that. Okay, so
Need agreement?
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
We agreed to A?
Yeah, and I think, as a local law and not a project, and where to the extent that the neighbors anything happen, that thing would be subject to an extensive review itself. And I think these are appropriate answers. Okay, so the rest of it is just formality, and that's where we get to the resolution. We're just filling out some more names and contacts. At this point, you can take up the resolution number 6, which just reiterates that it's called a type 1 action, and that you reviewed it, and that you determined that it would not have any significant environmental impacts, and that it would be filed, and it directs me and the president to take the steps to file it and do it, because things are necessary. So now,
So we had an introduction in the second. No, we did not. Okay, not the resolution. So can I have a motion in a second? Henry? Rick? Roll call vote.
President Estefano.
Aye.
President Donahue. Friedman.
Aye.
Kariga. Haddad.
Aye.
Key.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Moore. O'Hara.
Aye.
Rector.
Aye.
Scalera. Carried.
May I have an may I have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss litigation pertaining to Ulrich and Morrison litigation.
Is that the last thing you have?
The only other thing that I'm going to mention at the end is the 2 gray dumpsters, small rolling dumpsters that are in our lobby, which is for the, it's called the KISS program. It allows seniors to drop off sensitive documents that will be taken into those dumpsters and then shredded for their, and this will run until the end of March. And it's free for seniors. That's the only other thing that I'm going to discuss, well, we're not even going to discuss it. It's on your desk, says, let your constituents know. If there's anything from the public tonight, any new business,
Public forum.
I mean, other than the executive session, I don't think we have anything else to discuss.
Hey, well, the chief left an hour ago, but congratulations to the police department and via the DPW for finally getting our trailer.
Yes.
Hopefully
Yes.
things have slowed down a little bit in only the last few days.
Okay, anything else? So I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion to adjourn into executive session for discussion of whatever it was.
Henry, so
Not adjourned.
we're not adjourning this meeting. We're just moving into executive session. All in favor?